it feels like there's something that we missed here in this little conversation, Pat, and I'm going to push you on it. What happened with number 35? Why did that one take off? Was it your intro? Was it the algo that finally caught up with you? Did you say something different? Have you been able to figure that one out yet?
I haven't. I didn't say anything.
Pat Flynn, so you've written another book. Tell me more about it.
Yes, another one. This one's a big deal. I mean, the other ones were as well, but this is my fourth book. It is my first traditionally published book, which is a huge deal because I have, yes, I got an advance and all this stuff, but there's a lot more, I feel like, at stake with it as a result of having a publisher on board. There was a lot of lessons learned along the way with this as well. Things move a lot more slowly, but now they're ramping up even faster because, at least at the time of this recording, I'm just a few weeks away, in fact, 2 weeks away from the launch, which is exciting. And this book is one rung or one circle, if you're looking at like a dartboard, it's one circle outward of entrepreneurship. It is, in fact, my first attempt at sharing information in more the self-help and the self-development realm, which is really exciting. And that's kind of the reason why I went traditional in this case, because people think I'm crazy since I already have an audience built in, but that's an entrepreneurial audience. This book is relevant to them as well, and any creators really. But this book is really meant for the overlearners, those of us who are hoarding the amount of information that's out there, which is basically most of us, because we live now in a new normal. And that new normal is information overload and even inspiration overload. We're getting so much noise and signals out there that we're just unsure how to navigate it. And so the subtitle of my book, Lean Learning, really says it all. It's how to achieve more by learning less. At one point, and you and I, when you and I started out, Gideon, information was valuable because it was scarce. There was not a lot of it online, and people who were the ones to move forward and actually create were the ones who were kind of sometimes first to share. I knew this because I had built my first business helping architects pass an exam, and I was one of the first online to teach that information. And same with you, with video. I mean, everybody who watched you had such amazing results because you shared stuff that nobody else did. Times have changed, though. There is so much information that we, in fact, have access to all the information we could ever need to go to where we want to go. But if information alone were the answer, then we'd all be successful and achieve our goals. But we're not, because we're getting drawn into so many different directions. And no longer are we starving for information. We're bloated with information. We're actually in a way, just hoarding and consuming way too much of it, so much that we're actually becoming obese with it. And as a result, we feel even further behind. So this book is an answer to that with specific strategies and frameworks that I've implemented recently. And a lot of people have seen me move faster than ever recently. And I wanted to share some of these principles and ideas inside of the book for people, and especially my kids who are entering adulthood very soon. It's a different world now. And I think value is no longer how smart are you. Value is how quickly can you pick up things, how quickly can you apply those things, and that is going to be useful.
I actually wanted to ask you about that because I was listening to one of your podcasts where you introduce your book and that you're about to launch it. And I just listened to it this morning. And you talked about your kids and basically their future and, what's the future of learning here. And it got me thinking too, because I've got 3 children as well, ranging from, 6 to 14. And we had this discussion with each other about the future of learning for them, especially when it comes to AI. What's that world going to look like? So It sounds like you are sort of not just writing for people now, but also writing for people in the future. Do you bring AI into the whole mix as well? And I think
I do. I don't.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I talk about it as something that is here. It's something that's here, and it's leveling the playing field for what we all have access to. And this is, again, another reason why we have to understand, well, what is our value? Our value is our contribution to society in the little spaces or niches or markets that we dive into. Whether you are an employee or an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. Your value is what you can contribute. And right now, information isn't necessarily something we can contribute because it's already there. I mean, there's so much of it. So how do we contribute? Well, there's a lot of, especially for younger kids, a lot of more executive functioning and those kinds of things that become valuable versus just what you know. There's empathy and understanding how to communicate. And my favorite is storytelling right now, which of course plays hand in hand with video and video creation.
Absolutely.
storytelling, in addition to how quickly can you learn and implement, those two things are going to be the most important skills to have in the future. It's not how smart you are, it's how well you apply and what you can do with that information.
That's so interesting because I was just interviewing Robert Scoble about a week ago, the tech influencer guy. And I asked him, in a world of AI, what role will humans still be playing? Especially where you can just press a button and the whole video gets created for you now. Maybe not quite as good as humans yet, but it's coming. And what role is humans going to play? And he said that same thing. Storytelling is going to be one of those sort of last bastions in the world of AI. So I'm really glad you've picked up on that as well. I would love for you to quickly give us an overview of the method or the process for learning, lean learning, because there's one other thing in there as well that really piqued my interest that you talked about. But I think there are 4 main steps or something that you cover inside the book. If you could just quickly go over that to give people a little bit of a teaser for what they can find inside the book.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, this isn't a revolutionary concept. In fact, it goes back to how things used to be. Like if you were learning how to become a blacksmith, right? You didn't go to school for 5 years and then start finally tinkering after 5 years. You were literally doing it on day one under a master who was having you as your apprentice, right? And they took you under their wing. I mean, I feel like the future has an opportunity to blend in those learning styles, how we used to learn back in the day, as well as with the technology that we have access to. But the 4 stages of lean learning, again, are pretty simple. It's understanding what your next steps are, then learning all about those next steps, then implementing sooner than later based on what you've just learned, not learning everything, not the whole thing, but just your next steps, and then analyzing and then repeating or moving on to the next step if you're ready. That's really it. And if I were to sum it down to just a phrase, it is the idea of getting away from just-in-case learning and moving toward just-in-time learning. That is, again, what is your next step? Learn about that. That's what you're consuming about, allowing yourself to consume about. Everything else should be blocked out at that time. And you have to trust that by the time you are ready for the next phase, the resources available for that next phase are there. They are. We know them to be there. And by the time you need it, likely they're going to be even more updated, more relevant, and better, because it is now time to then absorb that information. So there's a lot at play here, because a lot of it, Gideon, is not just like what to do, but it's also how we process all the information and things that are happening out there. We have a sense of FOMO often when it comes to information, because we're so easily connected to a lot of things that are happening, our friends on social and all the news, and of course books and podcasts and YouTube videos. So we feel like, because titles are so well written, or because algorithms are putting them right in front of us, that we have to consume it. It's those platforms are built so we stop what we're doing and click and then watch, or click and then play. And so we have to be very, very careful about what we allow in and what we then do as a result. And I know that most people, like I remember I was at a conference once and I ran a survey live in front of this audience, and I had people raise their hand to answer. And I said, how many of you here in this room are subscribed to at least one podcast? 100% participation. Everybody raised their hand. I said, okay, keep your hand up if you are subscribed to more than 5 podcasts. Few hands went down. 10 podcasts. A few more hands went down. And we got up to 50 podcasts, and there were still like 10% of the room that were still held hands high. And it was just like, that's what are we doing? There's so much information that we're absorbing. We're not allowing for time to actually do anything. And then this FOMO that we're dealing with, because we see this content, it's out there, it's getting right in front of us. We feel like we have to, almost like food. Like if we, like our brains aren't evolved to absorb this information, just like how our brains aren't evolved to, really handle all the sugars and carbohydrates that we're consuming. Meaning, like back in the day, like caveman days, right? It's like if you came across some food, you hoard it. Like you have to. It's survival, because you might not come across, another carcass or a fruit bush or whatever, right? We're treating information in the same way, even though it's literally everywhere. And again, we're just obese with it now. So the way to get rid of that is to just, number one, again, be very clear with what your next steps are. Number 2, only allowing yourself to learn about that next step. Everything else you put to the side. And if you're having trouble with that because you have FOMO, you fear missing out on something that you might not even need right now, you put it away in a Notion folder or an Evernote folder or a shoebox or something. And just simply by doing that allows you to move forward and do the things that you said you were going to do, knowing that those things are still there in case you need them. And 99% of the time, you're never going to go back to them. It's just simply a method for you to move forward. So that's lean learning. It's sort of a two-part leaning. It's leaning out the things you don't need, but then once you know what you have in front of you, you lean into it and go deeper. That's really the basis of lean learning.
I'm so glad you covered the just-in-time idea. I kind of learned about that back in 2001 when I did engineering and manufacturing stuff. And it was critical in the whole, like I think Japan started using it, and it was critical in how they became one of the leading manufacturers in quality, etc. And applying that idea to learning, I think, is just beautiful because, I mean, you can apply it to everything, right? Just-in-time engineering, just-in-time coding, just-in-time everything, just-in-time parenting, because you can waste so much time on the just-in-case stuff, because the just-in-case stuff is 80% of the stuff, or maybe even 96%, and there's only really 4% of the things that you really need to learn. So I like that. I really like the idea of learning it when you're ready for it. And it almost reminds me a little bit of the idea that when the student is ready, the master appears. And it's like the student's only ready 4% of the time kind of thing. It's the master only appears when you're ready. And it's when it's that just in time sort of thing. So thank you for that.
I can give you a clear example of this in motion. In 2008, I had gotten laid off from my architecture job. And I discovered this world of online business, but again, had no idea what I was doing. And in fact, I don't know if this is most people, but I would assume that it's similar. My first inclination when I was like in my head, I'm going to do business, was to figure out what business school I should go to. But that would have taken so much more money, so much more time. But for whatever reason, that was just how I was wired. I have to go learn everything there is about this first before I implement. But of course, I didn't have time. And thankfully, I had what I like to call a force function in my favor. It was involuntary. I didn't want to get laid off. I didn't want to move back in with my parents, but I had some driving force behind me, a pressure, if you will, to have me take action and learn more quickly. And so I was like, okay. And I found out that, with this website that I had built, that I had some traffic. It was a website built to help architects pass an exam. And I was told that I could publish an ebook and sell it. I had no idea how to do that. I didn't even know what an ebook was. Again, this was back in 2008. Eventually, I learned what it was, but then I was getting already overwhelmed about the idea of it. Okay, I have to write this thing, then I have to format it, then I have to somehow get it on my website and use techie-related things that I don't know about to sell it in like a sales page. Like, this is so foreign to me. And even just diving into all those many pieces, I was getting confused, getting overwhelmed, and I was going to give up. But thankfully, again, I had a big pressure force behind me, a force function. And all I knew is, okay, let me, and again, I didn't know it was quote unquote lean learning at the time, although that's what I did. I knew that the first step was I just needed to write the thing. I didn't need to know how to sell it. I didn't need to know all the tech stuff. I just needed to open up Microsoft Word and write this thing out. So that's exactly what I did. In 3 weeks, I wrote for probably 4 or 5 hours a day. I got my notes and study guide information and put it in this Word document, and it was there and it was done. It was 74 pages. It was ugly, but I had it done. And I was so motivated more than ever to then move on to the next step because I had it. I was like, oh my gosh, it's here, but it's ugly. I need to format it. Okay, let me watch some YouTube videos. Let me talk to somebody who's done an ebook before and ask them how they formatted it. And I figured out in a couple days, really, that was it, how to turn it into a landscape guide with 2 columns, which looked nicer, and it was easy to kind of use it as a workbook that way. And I was like, okay, great, this is amazing. I have the finished book now. I need to sell this. Again, I was so driven to find out that next step because I was already in the middle of the process. So that's when I discovered, just simply by asking people again who had done it before, what tools could I use to sell this thing? And there was a tool called eJunkie. You probably remember this, Gideon, because you and I were back there back in the day. eJunkie allows you to upload a digital file, and it gives you a button to put on your website. And anybody who clicks on that button can go through a checkout process, and that thing gets sent to them. You get PayPal money, and you're all good. And I was like, okay, cool. I set it up in a day, and I had this button, but I didn't know where to put it. And then I eventually learned, okay, I had to make a sales page. But I never wrote a sales page before. Do I have to learn about copywriting? Do I have to spend now 6 months mastering copywriting before I could even do the sales page? Like, no wonder most people don't take action on this stuff because it's just so overwhelming. And again, I asked around. And a couple people mentioned that there was a resource that I should go check out. And that resource was a book called Moonlighting on the Internet. I went to Barnes & Noble, I grabbed it, took it home, and when I flipped through it, it was made up of about 20 to 30 different ways to make money online, everything from eBay and like all kinds of ways to, again, moonlight on the internet by Yannick Silver. I didn't need any of that. I needed the appendix in the back of the book, which included a Mad Lib style sales page where I can just plug in the name of my product, the features and the benefits, and then put a price point to it. So I took that, I put it on my website, and that website since then, 2008, has generated over $1 million. And it didn't happen because I learned about the whole thing, and I didn't go to business school. I went to the school of taking action and learning as I was going, making mistakes. And as I often thought, mistakes were going to derail me, right? Mistakes in my head in the beginning felt like proof that I didn't have what it took. But rather, I've learned that the mistakes become the guardrails that you can now work in between. And that's the way that I've approached everything now, from inventing a tool called the Switch Pod to creating a community to now a Pokémon YouTube channel with 1.6 million subscribers to a short form channel that's done just as well in 300 days, and any other thing I approach with that same learning style.
It feels like I've just had a mini masterclass on lean learning. So thank you for that, Pat. We're going to come back to this in a second, but just for now, for people watching or listening, if they already want to check it out, the best place to go is leanlearningbook.com. Is that right? I'll share it on the screen as well.
Leanlearningbook.com, yes. And if you happen to catch it early, there may be some bonuses still available there. Beautiful website by the rock-based team who built this for me. And then, of course, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's even on Target as well. Just anybody who supports the book, I'm just so grateful for it. And especially you, Gideon, allowing me to amplify this here. But yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited because it's a couple weeks away, and I always get super nervous and I'm like every day I'm going through a roller coaster of emotions with this book. Like like after this interview, I'm going to feel so great about it, and it's like, this is the best thing in the world. Everybody needs to read it, and then a couple hours later, I'm going to be like, it's crap. Like I could have done much better. It's just how it is with any major project I've always has had those major highs and major lows. So that's why I know this is going to be great and important, because I'm throwing up every once in a while thinking about it.
I'm really looking forward to it. I don't think you've got anything to be worried about. I think it's going to be an awesome release, and I can't wait. And that's why I love supporting you on that, Pat. I wanted to particularly ask you about how you're going to be using video to help grow this brand, because it's a new sub-brand. I mean, just a funny story. Before we started this call, I mentioned that I just watched your latest YouTube video and how you went through the different profiles or the different creator profiles for creating, being a video or a content creator. And the last one was, I think, called the Renaissance profile, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it really resonated with me. And you said that you're that sort of person as well. So, which means that we love variety. We love creating lots of different things. And I encourage people to go and watch that video. It's really a game-changing kind of video. So from what I'm seeing is that this is one of those variety projects that you have. You've got the Smart Passive Income brand, umbrella brand, but then you've got multiple sub-brands after that, products, maybe communities, the podcast, etc. But now this book as well. So I want to dig into how you're going to, or how you are already starting to get the word out about this book, and particularly using video. I mean, talk about other things as well if you want to. But
sure.
For example, I noticed you were starting to post daily videos about the book and about the release of the book. And it was really cool seeing that on LinkedIn. I saw it on LinkedIn, but I'm sure you're posting elsewhere as well. But that grabbed me. I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to be part of this. I want to see what's coming up next. What's the strategy here? How are you going to bring video into this to get more eyeballs on this particular project of yours?
Yeah, video is really, really important because it's a quick way to show people what's happening, not tell people what's going on. But again, show people what's happening. And that's key here, right? These videos that I've been creating ever since 3 weeks out, 21 days before the launch, I knew this was going to happen. I was going to create a daily video. I've been having practice with daily videos on my Pokémon channel, and I've grown that channel to 1.6 million subs. This is separate than the long-form Pokémon channel. 300 days was yesterday, actually, for the short-form channel. So my editing chops have been really great. I can come out and spit out these videos really great. And I've come to realize that it's not the information about lean learning or even what I'm doing. It's how I'm doing it and how it's relatable, or the emotion behind it. So the kickoff video for this 21-day series, leading up to the launch, and I will be going daily after as well, just FYI, for 7 days, because then the countdown will be, have I made the New York Times list or not? And whether I make it or not, it's going to be a moment that I'll be able to share with people. And my hope is that I get it, of course, and we can celebrate. However, if we don't, I can still teach people the lesson that it's not about the list and it's still making an impact, right? Again, I'll be honest and be disappointed. Not going to flip out. I'm going to flip the script on what this means and hopefully help those who are sort of watching along the way. And that's really the purpose here. Is a series allows people to know what's coming next without knowing exactly what's coming next. With my Pokemon channel, for example, it is a very similar format every single day. I open a pack of cards. There's a little jingle. It says, should I open it or should I keep it sealed? And at the end, it's determined whether or not I should have kept it sealed if it was a bad card, or yay, I got a good card. This is where I learned the power of people actually building a connection with you because you're showing up every day, because they expect something from you and you can deliver on that. And in this series, it's a small mini series leading up to this. I think if I had done it, for example, 100 days before launch, it would have been a little too much. So I'm hypothesizing that 3 weeks out, there's enough emotion happening, there's enough momentum and ramp up to build, again, some awareness, number one. And yes, people are seeing it on LinkedIn. I'm posting it on LinkedIn. This is just a 60-second video. I'm literally experimenting with how I'm tagging it in the beginning. Hey, I'm an author and I'm creating a video every single day so you can see behind the scenes what it's like to be an author. That I've experimented with that. I've experimented with more things that are more hook-based and then bring in the thing. So again, I'm learning as I'm going what's working best. I'm already seeing some stuff that is working. The video that kicked it off.
Could I interject there, Pat?
Yeah.
Because it actually, there's something I wanted to ask you about Short Pocket Monster, because also Deep Pocket Monster, but maybe it's a little bit of an aside, and we can come back to lean learning, but I think this is a good point to dig into that a bit. With Short Pocket Monster, it seems like you've really dialed that in, and I'm not sure if you got there at first or it was luck, or it sounds like there was a bit of a process for you to figure out that formula, right? Especially the hook, should I open it? Should I keep it sealed? Can you share with us your process for how you got to that? Because I'm sure you're going through the same process now for lean learning. And the reason I want you to dig into that is because that's almost like the prototype that we could use now for lean learning and anybody else or anything else that you might be approaching.
So what was like?
What was the thinking process there? How did you figure out the audience? And then, how did you get to that idea? Because you've also mentioned that a bunch of people have been copying, right? And to their detriment in a way, because just copying what you're doing is never going to be as effective as you coming up with something original. So I think if you can go down to the meta of the process, that'll be amazing if you can share that with us.
Let's talk about how it started. This is something I actually talk about in lean learning. It's this idea of if you're going to attempt to do something like this, like for example, I wanted to do shorts because I had never done it before and I never really gave it a shot. I had dabbled, but I knew that in order for things to actually pay off in one way or another, you got to give it some time. And I said, I'm going to do this for 60 days. There were a few rules. Number one, I wasn't going to get any help. It was going to be all me. And number two, I wasn't going to link to it from anything else that I already had. Even though it could have been very easy to just tag this on top of my long form channel, I wanted to silo it so I could experiment and see if the algorithm could pick it up and find the right audience. And it did, but it didn't do that right away. In fact, the Should I Open It series wasn't my first attempt at creating these videos. My videos started in late June, and I was just trying a few things. It took about 10 or so days before I landed on the Should I Open It sort of jingle that then I was like, oh, this is cool. I can try this daily. And then I tried it a few days. People responded to it, so I just kept going with it. And here I am 301 days later. But, excuse me. Some of the first videos I went to like Barnes & Noble and I found some packs and I opened it in the car. I had a theory like, okay, maybe if I am such a degenerate that I can't even wait home to open these packs, but I open them in the car, that could be my thing. Like I can open them in the car. Okay. And I did that and it was like, nobody mentioned the car and it wasn't that relatable. And it kind of was, but it just didn't hit. And it didn't hit for me. I tried some other things where I kind of talked about the history of the cards and nobody really responded to that. I was like, okay, I'm not going to talk about that. But again, I went to a store and I had a friend of mine pull out something from behind the counter, and then I paused And then I had the jingle pop up. Should I, like, while the thing was like large on the screen? And I was like, ooh, that's cool, because now for the first time I've really leaned into, pun intended, the open-ended question. Like, what's in here, and is it worth it if I were to open it or not? And now you have to stick around to find the answer. And that really took off, but not right away again, because I hypothesized that it was going to take some time. So once I found that series idea of should I open it, I was like, okay, I need to give this a shot. I'm going to do this for 60 days. And that's something I talk about in the book. If you're going to attempt to do something or really try to hone in your skills or speed run your skill acquisition, give it a certain period of time. It's different for different things, but I wanted to give myself 60 days, one video every day. And whether or not I get a lot of views out of this thing or not, if I get to day 60 and I've gone daily, I will call it a win.
Okay.
It is not.
I want to point something out there, which is a bit of meta stuff. You mentioned the process you went through. So you went to the shop, tried a few different things, but eventually got to this: should I open it or should I keep it sealed? And the effect, the outcome of that thing that you did there, the hook, was to get people to lean in, right? So that's like a leaning in. So would it be fair to say that if we were to analyze that and say, what's behind that? What causes the lean in? What would you say that is? Is it purely just creating curiosity, or is there something else as well?
There's two things happening here, and especially with the Pokemon packs, right? There's value in the cards that are being opened. And there is an idea of me spending X number of dollars and at the end potentially losing money. That's inherently interesting, right? It's a very voyeuristic sort of situation, right? Oh, is Pat going to lose money? And there's something in that. But that combined with just what we call gap theory, or the idea that people hate leaving answers blank or unfinished, that psychological pull just draws people in no matter what it is. Like how awkward is that pause because I didn't finish, right? It's just so weird. So we have this draw to finish things, and so you can open things, and as long as you hopefully close them on the other end in one way or another, you take these open loops that you create in your videos, which is a very, very powerful storytelling technique, especially in long form, creating an open loop and then coming back to it later. It's used in movies, it's used in books, should be used on YouTube channels. As long as you close them, then you fulfill that promise. And depending on how you get there, it could be a huge climactic moment, or it can be a huge emotional moment if you do it right. And you can really draw in repeat viewers and really a deep connection with your audience in that way.
So is this what you mean when you say lean, like lean learning in the sense, but that you mentioned there's two kinds of leans here, right? But this particular lean is about leaning in, right? And so that's really what you're talking about here. It's like whatever you're doing is getting people to lean in and start sitting at the edge of their seat to want to close that loop.
Yeah, if you're a creator, absolutely. That's what you want people to do. It's literally sitting at the edge of their seat as if they are getting closer and closer to you, right? That's actually what's happening. They lean in and kind of put their ear to the speaker to hear what you're going to say next. That's the visualization you should have in certain moments of your video. And in a more meta kind of way, what am I doing here? I'm leaning into storytelling. I'm going deep and learning about it. I'm with my team literally reading books about screenplays and movies and writing sitcoms and all the ins and outs of videos like this. Like if there's one book to recommend in this world, it would be Save the Cat. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book, but it's a screenwriting
someone
book.
recommended it to me many years ago now. It's in my cupboard, my bookshelf, but I haven't read it. I better read it.
It's wonderful. It's made up of a ton of different strategies. The Save the Cat is just the name of one of those strategies, but it's a compendium of different ideas for storytelling that help a viewer stick around more. And so the Save the Cat idea is this idea of, like, if you've ever seen a movie and the protagonist in the beginning, like really early on, the first thing they do is they like save a cat from a tree. Well, then immediately the viewer has an emotional connection to them because they're a good-hearted person. They've gone out of their way to save somebody. So when they go through a tough time, you feel it more because you are more inclined to want them to win, right? It hurts more when it hurts them because they once saved, quote unquote, saved the cat. So my version of that in my long-form Pocket Monster channel is me often at the beginning of these challenges that I do, where I try to complete a set within a certain period of time, or I'm doing trade challenges or whatever, I do a very lopsided trade to a young kid who might not have a very valuable card, but I do, and he wants mine, and I do the trade anyway. It has people go, oh my gosh, Pat totally lost out on that trade, but look how kind he is. And I'd love to do that anyway, but capturing that is important for the story, because then as I go through trials and tribulations in my challenge and I try to slay dragons, if you will, in that hero's journey, the dragons become that much bigger when when the dragon breathes fire on me, like the audience feels it too, because they want me to win, or they're rooting for me, if you will.
Awesome. Okay, so that's kind of like the intro, the hook of the video. And so it sounds like there's quite a process for you to get there. It wasn't just like something it wasn't just luck. There was actually a process. You actually leaned into learning about what the best way is to do that. And not necessarily just during that time, but it's probably been a bit of a lifetime journey as well. It's like all that previous information you've learned, but also then specifically having that specific detailed knowledge to help you come up with that in the end, got you there to come up with that little jingle, right?
But I didn't succeed at first when I started to do it, right? To continue the story. Day 25 came around of my 60-day challenge, and I noticed the views were anywhere between 200 to 500 views per video, which in the grand scheme of things wasn't a lot. One of the videos hit 1,000, but like if it was younger me, I would have just given up already. I was okay, I've tried this for 3 weeks and some change, and it's just not going anywhere. Let me try something else. But no, 60 days was the goal. As my buddy Alex Hodges says, count uploads, not likes. So I was counting uploads. I wasn't even halfway there yet, so I kept going. Day 30 came around. Still 300 to 500 views. Nothing really big happening. Day 35, one of those videos, which incorporated a lot of things that I learned from the other ones. By the way, day 30, before I get into the big climactic moment, despite not having a ton of views yet, I was still seeing major wins. My editing time, because again, I was doing this myself daily, went from 45 minutes in the beginning to 15 minutes by the end of day 30. So even if I didn't get a ton more views, I gained that much more skill in my editing process and what I was learning and the shortcuts on the keyboard and all this stuff. I was a speed demon on ScreenFlow, which I'm still using for editing these videos, these short form videos.
That's cool.
Day 35 comes around though. And after 35 pieces of data that I've gotten, after getting really good at editing and telling story on these things, that video that I published on day 35 hit 750,000 views.
Wow.
And
so before this, you were only getting like 300 to maybe 1,000 views max. Is that right? Because and the reason I want to point this out is because that's where most people are stuck. They even have a name for this, right? They call it 500 view hell or 500 view jail or something like that, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So video 30, you're still getting those sort of views, or up to 34, is that right? And then 35 is the one that goes
blew up.
Nuts.
I remember 35. It was people ask me like, how did you do that? And for a while I was just like, I don't know, it just happened. And in many cases, when you're in YouTube land, sometimes you just got to keep publishing till stuff happens. I mean, I interviewed MKBHD a while back, and he said his first 100 videos, these are long form videos, were for less than 100 subscribers. So that just tells you like how dedicated you kind of sometimes have to be. And he just posted today that he crossed 20 million subscribers, which is wild.
Wow.
But in looking back at that particular video, there were a few things working in its favor. Number one, it started out in a way that some of my other higher viewed videos did, like the 1,000 ones, where I bought the thing in a store. So that was number one. I purchased the thing in a store, and I there was context to me purchasing this thing. So some of the videos that I did that didn't do very well were just me starting with the pack in my home office. This one was like out in the wild, so there was something intriguing about that, and so I incorporated that into this newer video. Another thing that worked in previous videos was whenever there was a sticker on the pack, like a bright orange sticker or a green neon sticker with a price on it, those videos tended to do a little better than the other ones. And it was probably because, number one, maybe the thumbnail, cool, but it was also just different. Like it just stood out so quickly, and it reinforced the sort of price of the pack in the beginning. without even having to me say anything, right? People, before I even said the price, could see it. It's right there.
So this is just a
So there's,
little
again,
sticker that made a difference that you could tell from just the stats.
correct. That was the pattern after 34 videos that I saw, was just, hey, that's interesting. And again, that's the beauty of YouTube, is it gives you a lot of data. It doesn't write for you. It doesn't say, oh, these ones had stickers, so do more stickers. You kind of have to look at your patterns and analyze that. And that's what I figured out.
But this was before number 35, the big one.
Correct. Again, I was getting this data and trying my best to learn from all the data that was coming in and not giving up. And if I got to day 60 and I didn't get these tons of views, I would have wished that I did, but I would have felt good about myself for finishing the experiment, and then I could move on to something else. But day 35 came around, that blew up. All the other videos started to blow up after that. And now I'm at a point, so I repurposed these videos as well on TikTok and Instagram, and they're also on YouTube. 301 days in now of the Should I Open It series. We are about to cross 2.5 billion views with a B. It is generating 5 figures in income with AdSense and TikTok combined on its own, just the shorts. And I've been invited to so many new things, and I got invited to the Detroit Lions National Football League, American football stadium, to open packs with their team. I got invited by some soccer teams, and I've gotten to meet some UFC fighters and basketball players who also open packs, who reached out to me, who want to do collabs. And it's just like, this thing blew up, and it's crazy. And now people are using the jingle and not just copying. I mean, there's a lot of copiers who literally rip the videos off, but there's people who create their own version of it, right? There's people who are opening packs of seaweed, pretending they're like valuable, using my song. There was a DJ who used the song in front of 15,000 people at a rave. There was a person who worked at a mortuary, pointing at a casket, saying, "Should I open it or should I keep it sealed?" That's how viral this thing has become, and it's been a wild ride. And this is why, to tie back into lean learning and the launch of the book, I know how powerful a short form video can be if I tell the right story, if I collect the right data, if I give it enough time, and there's some meaning there behind it, which I hope there is with the launch.
Okay, but it feels like there's something that we missed here in this little conversation, Pat, and I'm going to push you on it. And that is, up to 34, you were getting, say, up to 1,000 views per video, and then you discovered some things. There was like, you figured out your jingle, you noticed that you started doing better with that maybe, but then you figured out the sticker, that was something there that you figured out on your own. But then what happened with number 35? Why did that one take off? Was it the sticker? Was it your intro? Was it the algo that finally caught up with you? Did you say something different? Have you been able to figure that one out yet?
I haven't. I didn't say anything significantly different. I didn't change the framework compared to the other videos. It just happened. It just happened because I gave myself enough chances for something to happen. And I still find the pattern to be same after 301 videos. I'm still experimenting. I'm still learning. If I had the perfect formula, every video would have, millions of views. I mean, the plateaus have increased now. My baseline on my videos is about 1 million views in 24 hours per video. And now my version of day 35 that happened recently was, I think, day 250 or something like that. One of the videos hit 35 million views, which is more video views than I had in all of my entrepreneurial channel in its lifetime. And again, it used those same things to open in a store, and it had a sticker price on but there wasn't anything like super significantly different about that. The algorithm just seemed to like it better. And that's the crazy thing about this. Sometimes I literally don't know the answer, but what I do know is that the more casts I put out there, when I'm on a fishing boat right now and I'm casting, I'm trying to catch the big fish. And sometimes I get small fish, even though I use the same presentation. Sometimes I use the same presentation and literally come back with nothing. Like, I've had a lot of bomb videos that do nothing, but I don't give up. I'm still casting. And every once in a while, I don't know if like the barometric pressure and the sun's hitting something in the perfect way, I just land the big one. It's just like, and the more casts I make, the more opportunities for me to land the big one, but it's not going to happen every time.
This reminds me of something that happened, a story that happened when I still had a job, just like you back in the day. This was like 20 years ago or so. I had the wonderful opportunity to interview the CEO of our company. It was about 1,000 people worked in it. It was a manufacturing company. And he was like this big entrepreneur. This is back in New Zealand. Very famous. He was like a celebrity. And I felt so lucky to be in his presence. And I remember asking him, what is the secret to the success? And he said, Gideon, I found that the harder I work, the luckier I get. And I've heard that in different forms many, many times, which is a really nice preamble for my next question, which is in, which episode was it? In episode 824 for Smart Passive Income podcast, you talked about quality versus quantity. And it almost seems like there's a bit of luck involved here, but the luck only comes with the quantity. Could you touch on that a little bit as well? Because you in that episode, it was really interesting how I think you started off saying that you wanted to go in with quality first, because that's maybe how you were preconditioned with your previous life, mm-hmm. right? 'Cause don't put out, crappy things, create awesome things. But you switched over and said, let's do quantity. Like, tell us a bit more about how that happened. What made you sort of realize that, and how did you overcome that sense of trying to be too perfect or trying to get it too good, which could limit your progress? Because if we come back to that story of the CEO, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So how did you get to that realization?
It was simply a matter of living it. I mean, the Shorts channel is an example of that. And I've looked at a lot of other things in my life, and the quantity of podcast episodes, the quantity of blog posts from back in the day. It just seems like the more that I do, the more that I understand, right? Not just learn, right? It's one thing to just pick up information, but when you understand it such that you can then implement and readjust and pivot along the way, that's when I think speedrunning that achievement happens. And there's a big asterisk here with relation to quantity versus quantity, because I say that when you're just starting out, quantity is hugely important. And I say that with an asterisk, and that asterisk is, but don't sacrifice value, right? Quantity over quality, yes, in the beginning, so that you can get those reps in. Like I said, in the first 30 days, I cut my editing time from 45 minutes down to 50 minutes on the Shorts channel. That's huge. That's a massive improvement that allows me to now start to inject quality in there when I couldn't before, because I just didn't have the time. And so when you get those reps in, you get your wheels turning, you get the momentum, you get rid of the rust perhaps that's been there. You start to get a little bit more comfortable with putting yourself out there. And through those casts, if we want to go back to the fishing analogy, you'll start to pick up on things that work and things that don't. And imagine putting all your time, let's go to the other extreme. Let's go and put all of your hard work and effort into one banger video. And for whatever reason, the algorithm doesn't pick it up. You put all this effort in and you realize that, like maybe your thumbnail and title wasn't great, which is why, even though it's a banger video, nobody clicked on it because the title and thumbnail's incorrect. With things that are so multifaceted like YouTube, which is title, thumbnail, hook, retention, close, rinse, repeat. If any one of those things, especially in the beginning of that sequence, is off, then everything else falls. However, imagine in the first 30 days, you have 5 or 6 chances to get better at thumbnails, to get better at titles. Maybe the banger video that you had at first, after you now have 6 or 7 reps in front of it and are understanding titles and thumbnails, you go back and change the title and thumbnail to that banger video. And now that video starts to actually finally perform well. You maybe see some videos that have high click-through rates, but then very low retention. You can look at your retention graphs and see where people drop off. Cool, let me make another video and do much better. And every time you get on the stage is an opportunity for you to increase your, to your improvement. It's an opportunity to improve, right? Like 1% better every time. But if you only have one time, you can't get better. And so that's why I'm in the camp now of quantity over quality without sacrificing value, because we still don't just want to put crap out there. I mean, I don't know about you, Gideon, but I've heard there are programs out there teaching people how to create 10,000 videos per day using AI. I don't believe many of that would be valuable. It's just adding noise, and
Slop.
it's just I hate that kind of stuff.
I'm
so
with
don't
you,
sacrifice
man.
value.
Yeah. I really like how you've put that qualifier in there, because I don't think I've heard anybody say that when they talk about quality versus quantity. I think, Gary talks about that. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that all the time. It's like, do quantity. But maybe he talks about it, maybe I've missed it, but I think just injecting the idea of quantity plus value. Don't cut the corners on the value. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Thank you.
I want to bring this back as the final thing before we wrap up, Pat, with what. So we've kind of gone kind of deep with the meta stuff, the thinking behind the thinking, and we kind of used the short pocket monster as an example of how you've learned, how you've leaned in, how you've caused people to lean into your content as well, all those sort of things. So that was a really kind of side example in a way, but also created the content for this particular podcast. But let's bring it back to lean learning now, because now this is kind of like a new project. And if you could spend a couple of minutes on what your thoughts are now, because I interrupted you at the beginning, and I apologize for a little bit, but it was really useful to take this detour. But what you've learned from Short Pocket Monster, from Deep Pocket Monster, from your own experience with video as well, and brand building, how are you going to bring that and fuse that into lean learning and getting the word out? So we'll finish with that, and then I'd love for you to talk a bit more about where people can go again for lean learning and what else they can get from that.
Yes. So the practice of creating a daily video, I'm in the middle of right now. I'm on 16 days until the launch of this thing, and I'm sharing different moments. Like yesterday was less of a vlog style behind the scenes, like a couple days ago where I went to LA to visit Sean Stevenson, and I filmed some B-roll and just added a voiceover on it. By the way, that is a secret tip for those of you who want to make this process a lot easier, is film whatever's happening during your day or whatever thing you're trying to teach or share, film the voiceover later. That unlocks so much ability for you to start to then massage the story and lay it out in a way with your voiceover. And that's been that I use voiceover on Short Pocket Monster, and that's been absolutely key. And so I'm implementing mostly voiceover. Although the other day, again, I'm experimenting with some more real-time stuff and just some thoughts and trying to create some hooks and stuff. So the daily video leading up, any special big milestones or moments I want to highlight for sure, like when I got my book in the mail and opened it for the first time, and I referenced Back to the Future and George McFly when he came out with his book at the end of the story. And that's very meaningful to me as a huge Back to the Future fan. So I brought a lot of me into it, a lot of emotion. That video, another video where I saw my rankings. I woke up and the ranking was #1 in bestseller for, or new release, not bestseller, but for entrepreneurship. And I shared kind of how I felt about that, because days prior to that, people have seen how nervous I am about this and how I wanted to do well. So this was like a nice celebratory moment. And that video specifically on Instagram has 90,000 views. So now 90,000 people had know I have a book out and that this thing is ranking. And so that these are all touch points. I think it is said that, and I know this more from a business perspective, but you need at least like 7 touch points before a person makes a buying decision. This is a little different. It's a book and it's much lower in terms of the price point. But if I can get enough touch points and speak about it in all kinds of different ways, from the logical kind of way on why this book is necessary and why a person needs it, to more of an emotional point, to more of a connection to me, because people love to support the work that I'm doing because I've already provided so much value to them in some way, shape, or form. These are all things within the next 16 days that are going to hopefully surge some sales and again, like I said, bring awareness, but also communicate the author behind the book. And that's where I feel I can stand out amongst many other people who are much more well-known authors who might not give as much of themselves to their audience, right? This is an author in the moment of launching, and you don't often see that, which is why I think I can differentiate myself in that way. The second video that I'm experimenting with is one that I've actually never created before. And you're kind of the first person to hear about this other than my team, because I'm experimenting with a video essay, a long form video essay. And I've been studying video essays. I love watching video essays. There are a lot of creators from like Sunny V2 who creates video essays about other creators, and often it's about their downfall, but it's always really interesting, to other creators who go into the history of certain video games and all those kinds of things. They're just amazing. Some just US history, etc. And they often do a really good job of retaining people and teaching people. So if I could create a video essay where it is a voiceover and it's B-roll and it's not me saying like, hey, buy my book, but let's talk about the problem out there. And let's talk about this from a world perspective of learning and how behind we are with how quickly things are moving and how slowly we are to adapt to the changing environment and technology around us. Kind of getting to that level to try to hopefully make an impact and connect with people as documentaries do, because video essays are similar to documentaries, to then engage a call to action at the end to go and check out my book. I have a theory that if that does really well, that it could spark a lot of sales and at least be a very educational video for people to bring light to how the world is now in a way that they really haven't seen before. Because this book indeed is, it's kind of in between the extreme and the obvious, right? This is what I was taught, and a good friend of mine, Jeff Goins, taught me this. He's like, if you want to write a good book that like stops people as they're walking through the bookstore, where the subtitle just kind of makes them pause and think, right? That's what you want. You don't want the obvious, where it's like the name of the book is like breathing keeps you alive. Yeah, we know this, so there's no reason for me to pick up this book. You're just not even going to pay attention to it. Or the other side, the other extreme is like how to make $10 million in 2 minutes. That's ridiculous. Like that's not possible in most cases, and most people know that. So that's on the other extreme. That's like no way. It is the middle ground, the one that makes people go, wait, no, I thought it was this, but maybe no. There might be something to that. It makes them stop and think, and that's what potentially can help you on a title, on a subject line for an email, or in my case, hopefully, a book subject line or tagline. How to achieve more by learning less. The formula being, what does everybody think? And what is the opposite contrarian view? And if you can prove that, and if not just say it for being the point of being contrarian, but saying the contrarian thing and being able to back it up and share how to, why that's true, and then help people through that. That's what I'm, again, hoping to achieve with Lean Learning. And that video essay, I'm really hoping kind of can, again, lean into that idea and that message.
There's so much more I want to ask you about this, Pat, but we kind of run out of time. So I'm going to quickly summarize my understanding of what you are saying about promoting this new book, which viewers and listeners could use for promoting their own brands or new brands or books that they might be releasing themselves. So there's the first part, which is kind of like the sprinkling of the magic fairy dust, which is the short form videos, getting them out there. They're emotional, they're daily, they're really grabbing the attention of people. But then you also have a longer form video, which you're calling a video essay, that is taking a bit more time. So I'm guessing there it's quality over quantity. You're spending a lot more time in making that maybe somewhat of a masterpiece, but using the short form to drive attention. Yeah, so a masterpiece for the long form, but the short form goes out daily. So
right. And then in my long form videos that I normally create, I am going to mention the book, and I have.
As well.
And that's an important component of this. You don't have to wait till the thing is done even to start talking about it. I started talking about the writing process 2 years ago and just seeding that this was coming. So there's been a lot of people who've known about this. I haven't really gone aggressive with, hey guys, I'm writing a book. Get ready for it. It's going to be here in 2.5 years. Again, I didn't know when it was going to come, but it's been very much slow as a process compared to when I self-published. But people knew what I was writing. People knew that I had good days, I had bad days. I was teaching along the way, and again, seeding this idea as it was coming about. I have done that with everything. That's how the Switch Pod, a physical product, was really promoted, and why it did $415,000 in 60 days, because it wasn't a surprise to people when it was finally time to pay. It was a story that was being built, and we were showing behind the scenes. We were showing how it was made. We were showing where we fell short. We were showing us going to events and getting our product in front of YouTubers and other people who were going to potentially use it, and what they were saying, good and bad. this creates the story, and you don't have to wait till the thing is done. You can actually, in many ways, crowdsource with your community or your audience to build the thing. I know there's been a lot of writers who have written their books publicly and have gotten a lot of Andy Weir, the author of Mars. He wrote his book publicly on his blog and was able to get NASA engineers to participate and help him with his calculations before it turned into this huge New York Times bestseller. So crowdsourcing your information, that could never happen if you just kept this thing a secret and then waited until it's done. There's so much more value with putting it out there and letting other people, even in a way, poke holes in it. But also it just shows that you're a real human going through the process, and that is inspirational, and that is something people can get behind.
Awesome. You've been super generous with your time, Pat. Thank you so much. I learned a ton from this, and I've been leaning into learning about what you've been up to. So thank you for sharing that. I'd love for you to just spend 1 or 2 minutes, or however much time you want, and have to talk a bit more about lean learning, where people can get it. I noticed there's some special things you've got on the website that people might be interested in for being involved with this launch. Do you want to just take us through that? I'll share the page if you want to take people through it.
Thank you, Gideon. Yeah, leanlearningbook.com is the website. There's some special bonuses there, even if you purchase just one book. And these are marketing tactics to hopefully get people to purchase the book, right? Even if you purchase one, there are some bonuses like a course and a launch party that you can get access to. There's also the opportunity to come and get some accountability groups and get access to that. So you can go there and check it out if you want, but even one book, or even just to share if it's something that you're interested in. I hope this book and the ideas behind it in our conversation today has inspired at least you to think about the way that you're approaching learning, and perhaps starting to understand what you should let in and what you shouldn't. And hopefully this is something that can help you move faster in the goals that you have and where you want to go in life. I think this is going to help everybody from students to entrepreneurs to middle managers to the stay-at-home mom trying to find out what they can do. And even if it's a hobby that you have, how to learn your way into that even faster, because then you can have more fun with it. Like imagine playing an instrument or learning a language or playing golf. These are all things that are available to us in this world. And if you spread yourself too thin across too many things, it's going to be difficult to do. But if you have a framework and an approach that helps you learn faster and start to enjoy these things sooner than later, then I think you're going to have an awesome time with them and be able to bring other people along for the ride too near you. So thank you again, Gideon, for having me on. This has been really special and such a fun conversation. You were an excellent interviewer. I love how you go deeper with the questions. I've done 50 of these now, and this was probably my favorite one so far.
Well, that warms my heart. Thank you, Pat, especially coming from you. We've known each other for, gosh, it's probably been about close to 16 years, right, since you've started.
I was going to say, we're coming up to 2 decades in a few years here.
Amazing. Well, everyone listening, you've heard it from Pat, leanlearningbook.com. Make sure you go and check it out. I haven't got a copy yet because it hasn't been released yet, so I can't wait to get my hands on it. Please go and check it out. Get yourself a copy, or even 1,000. I noticed there's one of them that's like, I think you can get 1,000. Check that out. That's quite a cool offer. Love it, Pat. So thank you again for your time, and I'm wishing you all the best for the launch of your brand new book. And I think this is going to rock. I think it's going to do really, really well. And I can't wait to get my hands on a copy as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gideon. I appreciate you.